Spring is right around the corner, just another few weeks of excruciating pain and misery in Berlin, and the sun will be out again. And with it, every man, woman, and non-binary creature in between will start rocking short skirts and t-shirts to show off their tattoo collection. Make sure that the good weather doesn't catch you unprepared and untattooed. Click the link in the description below and book an appointment. Welcome back. 1 week more. If you're seeing these in 20 years from now, at the moment when this was recorded, there was a thing called Instagram, you know? It was a thing that we looked in our little phones that by then were still outside of our head. And at some point, I know it sounds ridiculous now, but it seemed like it was everything. People were obsessing over it, were depressed about it, and it seemed like it had the power to make careers, take away careers. It was fucking crazy. Instagram launched in 2010, and at least from the perspective of a tattooer, it changed everything. It changed, obviously, the amount of growth that a tattooer could experience in a very short amount of time. It forever changed the studio artist dynamic, making painfully clear that studios used to operate as middlemen between the artist and the client, and taking a huge chunk of that operation, and it re-established that power dynamic the minute tattooers, at least when it came to reaching audiences, didn't need the studio's exposure anymore. It changed the way people tattooed, and what we considered great tattoos. We went from those big pieces, or those great pieces, always being big pieces, full back pieces, full body suits, to almost leaning more towards smaller pieces that translate very good because of their flatness in 2D photographies, right? So it also of course, in this era of artists that didn't need studios, it created a whole generation of DIY artists, not only Instagram, but a whole set of factors coming together to make a whole generation of self-taught artists that became huge, to a level that any like couch scratcher in the 90s could have only dreamed of. The golden era of ignorant tattoo, that could be called. But yeah, after this really amazing period of allowing artists to thrive, it got fucking Zuckerberged, like many other things. And it reminded us that tattooing was still marginalized. For a minute we forgot there, but all of a sudden it started shadow banning tattooers because of their lifestyle choices. because of their subject matters, because of their political opinions. And we went back to square one after having had a taste of success. And it's making a lot of people very, very panicky. I know we'll be fine because I've been here before a few times, but people that have not been tattooing long enough to have seen the debacle of MySpace, of Vine, of Facebook before that. Now it seems like Facebook was always the place where your aunt hangs around with her friends from church, but it wasn't. Like at some point it was the most efficient tool for us to find potential customers. And just the exact same way that is happening between Instagram and TikTok, it happened back in the day between Facebook and Instagram. And although Instagram had already the base to be a way better tool, the people that had invested so much time and effort in building up an audience in Facebook, the people that were super proficient in understanding how to use the platform at their advantage, and they were still unfamiliar with Instagram. It felt very scary, and we were unable to see how much better it would be, right? So I know there will be an alternative because there's a need for it now. Like many other platforms that try to either platforms that were designed for and by tattooers as an alternative or complementary tool to Instagram came out with a better service, but at a moment in which Instagram was not failing at the level that it's doing now. So perhaps what made all these platforms not really work is the fact that the problem wasn't there to begin with. Right now I feel like people are desperately craving for someone to come up with a solution. And I think and I know they will find one. But even if they don't, I feel what people that were born as tattooers with Instagram already around have forgotten, or maybe perhaps they didn't even know, is that your best promotion comes from your customer, not from Instagram. Okay, familia, no more reading exercises. You know what time it is, I know what time it is. It's donation time. We're of course super thankful if you like, comment, subscribe and share. No complaint there whatsoever. But we also need some money. A man has to eat. That's why we've launched a GoFundMe campaign to collect donations not only for this channel but also to help support my other two projects, New Fob and Hiragana Studio, which are like my babies. And both of them, not one but both of them, are non-profits that support independent tattooers. The work that I do there is pro bono. It is a really fancy way to say for free. So the cool thing about GoFundMe compared to other crowdfunding platforms is that it's not all or nothing. This means that you don't need to reach the campaign's goal to have access to the donations. So every donation that you send minus a little percentage for the platform will find its way to us and help us sustain these projects. Click the link in the description below, read a bit more about the campaign and help us continue the good work. So I think we all did that back in the day. We all shifted away the attention from our clients and started placing way too much attention to our social media profiles. The way they presented us as an artist, the way they presented our body of work, and a lot of people curated especially their profile grids to be optimal for first-time viewers. And that changed a little bit with Instagram stories. It became a little bit more of a daily journal that would allow people who were already invested in our work to kind of keep up with our daily shenanigans. But for the most part, everything was sending that message of this year is for those who don't know my work. And I think sending that message out there contributed to this unspoken rule that there was a few years ago, that you would make your collection out of one single piece by each of the artists that you liked. I remember having people tell me whenever they got finally their appointment, like, I've been wanting to get this appointment for such a long time. I've been such a long time fan of yours, but I just couldn't really decide which piece I wanted from you. I was torn apart between a portrait and a chair, and it took me a long time to make up my mind. And I would always think, like, why do you have to choose? Like, why don't you get a chair and a portrait, right? But I don't know, it's the way it used to work. You would get the one piece of the artist that you like and then move to the next one. And it was all about having a huge collection by different artists instead of going piece by piece regardless of who the artist behind it is. I think this is an interesting conversation for another time. I have the feeling also the attitude, it's almost like clients went from clients to collectors, and that came with that respect and reverence for the piece that they just got. And now it feels almost like clients went from collectors to curators or even to collaborators. And they not only take agency on the piece by deciding if they blast over it or they add some new texture by another artist, but also the way they weave their collections in layers and having pieces talk to one another. So it feels almost like they collaborate with the tattooer to contribute to their ongoing collage instead of giving a chunk of their body as a piece of empty wall like it used to be a few years ago. But in any case, I think that is where we started losing touch with reality, right? Instead of, we got so used to that steady flow of one-time customers that we missed the opportunity to turn these one-time customers into regulars or even, I don't know, promoters of our work, right? This, I think, was not only the zeitgeist of the moment or us missing the opportunity to tell them, like, hey, if you come back again, maybe I throw you a little something in the price, or maybe we can throw a free design or whatever, like try and find engaging policies with our clients. But it also I think was due to a lack of diversity in portfolios, right? We came from an era in which people were not allowed to have a unique style. And I think after that, the counter movement was a generation of artists that were so obsessed with their style because it was their DNA, that they would become guardians of their own style to the expense of creativity. So it created a whole generation of artists that were trapped inside their own brand, and those brands and styles became so successful that whenever they were bored with it, either they moved away from tattooing and implemented that brand and that aesthetic into fashion or even like furniture or whatever. And I have the feeling now people are evolving more into exploring their own voice instead of finding a style that can be replicated. That probably has also to do with the fact that things are so available online that if what you have is a formulated style, you will always find copycats of your own work. And only by having diversity in your portfolio and making sure that there's a little some amount of healthy inconsistency and diversity within your style and your voice, you can guarantee that people cannot really replicate the work because there's no formula behind it. Or rather, of course they can copy it, but they cannot create their own piece based on your same set of rules, if that makes any sense. So I think asking yourself the question of, am I like a one-time artist? Am I like a one-time tattooer? People would just get a piece by me and they're done, because essentially I present in my catalog I have like 160 variations of the same idea, which means that of course you're not going to get a few of them, but you're going to choose your favorite one and then get that one done as a reminder of my work in your body. Or do I have enough diversity in my portfolio that one could get theoretically an entire bodysuit and it would still feel dynamic and not repetitive, and that it doesn't exploit just the same idea, right? So I think these are things that one needs to ask themselves. One needs to ask themselves, whatever, you need to ask yourself that, am I inviting for people to come back, whether it is because of my booking policies or my style? Is it flexible enough for people to not get bored of what I do and have like different vibes and different even variations on the same style inside of my portfolio? But let's say worst case scenario, you check all these boxes, you feel like you're kind and nice and your spot is awesome and inviting, and you have great diversity in your portfolio, and you could totally imagine people coming back and getting more than one tattoo, but it's not happening. It doesn't matter. Still, your client is a way better promotion than any picture that you scroll by could ever be. Discovering a tattoo live at a party, while walking on the street, while sitting in a park, and being so in love with that tattoo that you have to build up the courage to approach the person and annoy them and ask them, I'm super sorry, but can I ask you who did that piece? Like, wow, it looks amazing. Can I take a look at it? There's no better way of seeing a tattoo than that. That's why exhibitions of photographies of tattoos will never make it. The way you can use the size, the placement, and the volume to enhance storytelling into the way people discover that piece. Wrapping around an arm, leaving certain information of the tattoo hidden, and that only when you move, there's the key part of the story appearing, making sure that you use color or size or negative space to direct the viewer's eye to where you want it to go, and making sure that they will read this story chapter by chapter the way you planned it. There's no more effective way than that. And at the end of the day, no one has capacity to tattoo 350,000 people. If you work your ass off, you tattoo, 500 people a year? If you tattoo almost every day, let's say every day, 7 days a week, and you bang 2 people a day. No one does that, but okay, let's put ourselves in like, I don't know, 720 people, which means that if you have 2,000 followers on Instagram, but they're highly engaged, and you are able to translate all of those into potential clients, you're good. That's why we see tattooers that are working that have so less followers. You don't need more. We're just told, and we're used to the idea that you need that many people so that the 0.5% that they allow you to talk to actually end up maybe turning into your customers. But don't let anyone control who do you have access to. Right now, you have a person in front of you that is committed enough to get a tattoo by you, which is mind-blowing. It's astonishing that someone loves your drawing enough to pay money for it. But not only that, to go through the rings of fire of booking process with a tattooer, and not only that, to get it in their fucking skin forever. Like, the level of engagement that that person has is unparalleled, way more than people bookmarking or liking and making a motion with their finger. So never lose perspective of that. Make sure that that person either comes back or sends friends back, or if they don't, that they show super proud their tattoo every time they're at a party, or that when at least people come and ask, who did that? How can I find them? They go balls off recommending you and talking about the experience and how great it was, showing the catalog. Okay, enough of coach. I look like a soccer coach that is also a dad. Maybe one day I have to get that look, not ironically, but for realty. I think this is all the time we got for this week, and like always, more than I initially wanted to. Yeah, you know the drill. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Click the link in the description below. Check GoFundMe, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.